Now, according to legend, Slytherin had built a hidden chamber in this castle known as the Chamber of Secrets. Well, shortly before departing, he sealed it until that time when his own true heir returned to the school. The heir alone would be able to open the chamber and unleash the horror within, and by so doing, purge the school of all those who, in Slytherin's view, were unworthy to study magic.
Muggleborns.
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, Teacher Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host. We've got the heir of Slytherin in the house tonight, Mr. James O'Reilly.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going. And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters, and we see how well it's staged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
Harry Potter.
That's right, Dobby. We're watching 2002's fantasy adventure film Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, directed by Chris Columbus, written by Steve Kloves, and starring Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. Now, this movie has a lot to live up to here, Jim. I believe it was the previous movie not so long ago that you gave a perfect 5-star rating to. So
Sure did.
this movie has a lot of shoes to fill when it comes for you.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I definitely loved the first one a lot, so we'll talk about this one, I suppose.
Well, I'm very excited to see if this one holds track for you in the same way the other one does. Now, I don't have a DVD cover here tonight, Jim. I have a box set of the Harry Potter movies, and of course, in the box set, they don't give any descriptions for any of the movies. So we have to turn to the lovely internet for our log line here, on over to everybody's favorite spot, IMDb, for this lovely log line. And it reads: the story follows Harry's second year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where the heir of Salazar Slytherin opens the Chamber of Secrets, unleashing a monster that petrifies the school's students. All right.
Yeah,
I
that
guess
is what the movie's about. Check plus,
is
in my
what-
opinion.
that is what the movie's about. Maybe could have used this one more sentence or two.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I
Again,
don't think IMDb is like, it's not the same as the DVD jackets. I think we've learned that.
we have learned it. Well, I've also
Much
learned that for
shorter
the
and sweeter.
for the IMDb log lines too, like anybody can write those. It's not like there's somebody at IMDb that's like responsible for that. It like you can do different ones. Like if you click on the log line, it brings up a bunch of them, and one of them will be like written by Sarah or like written by John, and it's like so you can just put in, I guess, to add your version of the log line.
Okay, so I have an idea.
We start writing the log lines.
Yeah, you have to start submitting your own log line to IMDb for each episode we do.
There we go.
And
We
then
start writing
you
our
read
own
it
log
off, and we
lines.
like guess if it's gonna actually become the one that's on IMDb.
It's actually not bad. That's a pretty fun game right there. We got to see if we can build our repertoire to be good enough to be the sunny side up guy. Because like that's if that's the peak, that's the top of the mountain. That's where we got to get to.
I think that's what we gotta do, man. I think you gotta write a log line for every movie, and we submit it to IMDb.
Oh man, I think we're gonna gonna have to start doing that. Oh great. Does that mean I have to start with 8 Crazy Nights next week?
Yeah, I think so.
I already cursed my existence for agreeing to this.
Well, we'll see. We'll work out the details.
We'll iron out the kinks off screen. Now, Jim, did you see this movie in theaters?
Yeah, I definitely saw this in theaters.
Nice.
And I remember not liking it as much as the first one. And I think this movie is kind of when I was starting to age out, because I thought this movie was kind of lame, honestly, when I was a kid.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they're only a year apart. So that's a big year difference there to go from a movie that the first one was such a big, important, like fantasy milestone movie for you. And then now you go 1 year later and you're like, nah, this is lame now.
Yeah, but we're just about to be teenagers, and that's exactly how teenagers are.
It is
It's
true,
like, nah,
right?
this
Yeah.
isn't cool anymore.
2002, we hit 13, puberty kicks in. We're like, I don't need any of that baby shit anymore. I'm a real
Yeah,
man.
this movie's stupid. What about you? What did you think of it when you were a kid?
So yeah, so I went with Zach to see this movie, and funnily enough, we ended up running into Alana when we went there. And so I ended up sitting with her and Zach, and the three of us saw this movie. And the only thing I remember from seeing it as a kid was the big scene with the spiders. Because I remember Alana freaking out during the movie when that happened.
Yeah,
And that was my big memory of remembering Chamber of Secrets. I don't think I really hated, like, I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was lame or anything, but I don't remember being like enamored with it either. Like the Harry Potter movies, we always went and saw them, but it was never a franchise that I was sitting there like, I can't wait for the next one. I need the next one. Like I read
yeah,
the books, went and saw the movies when they came out, but it was never one that it was like a ride or die, like I need this immediately type franchise.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It definitely turns into less of that for me after a couple more movies. For right now, this is something I was definitely like excited to go see when it came out.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, no, well, we know for you that after it hits the peak of number three, and once you hit your high mark, you bow out.
Yeah, because I don't know. We'll talk more about it when that episode comes along, but I defy you to find me a better movie out of the Harry Potter series than Prisoner of Azkaban.
You'd have to come to me after we've rewatched all seven of these for me to
Yeah,
have a have a, have a really good
we'll
guess
talk
there.
about it as this goes
We
on
will
for
talk
sure.
about it. But much like we talked about with the first movie and its absolutely gargantuan box office total, that was not a flash in the pan. This was absolutely a new franchise that was here to stay. So Jim, let's dive into some juicy numbers. Let's talk that box office.
Numbers, dates, numbers, numbers, dates, array, dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right, so Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets opens the weekend of November 15th through the 17th in 2003. Was it 2003?
2002.
2002, my bad. Um, so again, coming out right around the same time as the first one, right around Thanksgiving time, just 1 year later, like you were saying. So I have a feeling there's going to be some big holiday numbers coming up here in just a few weeks. But for week one, it opens number one to 88.4 million.
So not good enough to top the previous one with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. That one pulled in 90.3, but 88.4 is still good enough for the third largest opening weekend of all time behind Spider-Man and then Sorcerer's Stone. So still a huge number right there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting to look at what movies are out this week, also, right? Because it comes in first by a pretty healthy amount. Second place is going to come in with $19.4
It's
million dollars,
not even close.
and it's 8 Mile.
Oh, dude, talk about counter programming right there.
It's week two of 8 Mile, yeah. So it's still the second week. That's not a bad second week, although 8 Mile does have a pretty big drop. It's like 62%. Um, third place that week, this makes sense, holiday movie, The Santa Claus 2 with 15.1 million. That's its third week.
It's a movie.
And then sharing an open weekend, I don't see a lot of like big names here. A lot of these don't mean anything to me, but the only one in the top 10 is coming in fifth place, Half Past Dead.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, what movie is that?
It's the dead. Yeah, never heard of that.
Okay, a man goes undercover in a high-tech prison to find information to help prosecute those who killed his wife. While there, he stumbles onto a plot involving a death row inmate and his $200 million stash of gold. You know what movie I just realized this is?
What?
It's the Steven Seagal movie with like with I want to say Ja Rule is in it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I know,
Where
I know.
Steven Seagal like goes undercover in a prison.
Oh my God. Yep, that sounds like a Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah. So Half Past Dead shares an opening weekend with Chamber of Secrets. It comes all the way in fifth with 7.8 million. So pretty big failure. I would probably
What a
give up
shame.
that one. Oh, also I forgot to mention Harry Potter is coming out against the $100 million budget.
All right, so yeah, it's a
So
pretty Great
strong
opening
opening
weekend right there. Yeah.
They're definitely pretty happy so far, right? Weekend 2, it is not gonna go on a run.
Ah.
It comes in second with 42.2 million. I'm guessing that you didn't see this movie, so I'm gonna say the number one movie, and I'm gonna say it's probably not our next one.
Okay.
Uh, Die Another Day comes in first place.
Oh, no, I did not. I did not see that. I didn't see any of the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies until way after they came out.
I definitely would have saw this one. I don't remember if this is the one where he goes to North Korea or not. I think it
Yes,
is.
it is. Yeah, it's
Okay,
that one.
yeah.
And then he rides like the right, doesn't he like drive a car over like I like
Yeah, and it's
an
like an
ice
invisible
palace?
car.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
he's driving it through like ice caves. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is when the Pierce Brosnan movies really start to jump the shark, is like in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that comes in first with 47 million. It like just edges it out. And Harry Potter only has a 52% drop. So like with a huge
Yeah.
opening weekend, that's still pretty strong, right?
Good holdover. Yeah. Is
Uh,
that Thanksgiving weekend or
I
no?
think it is, yeah, because it's the
Yeah.
22nd to the 24th. And then
Oh
we can
yes,
look
that's
at,
definitely.
you know what I want to do? I want to look at some dailies really quick. Okay, no, so it's not Thanksgiving weekend, by the way.
Oh, okay. It's the week before then.
It's the weekend before Thanksgiving. Yeah, so no, Thanksgiving's going to be November 28th.
Oh, my birthday.
So weekend 3, it goes back into first place,
Ooh.
jumping back over Die Another Day. This week, only a 23.9% drop. And then just to break down the holiday days here, so the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, it pulls in 6.4. On Thanksgiving, it pulls in 7.2, and that's on top of that big weekend we just talked about. So in that 4 day, that means it pulls in like another $40 million or so.
Jesus. This
Yeah, right. And
movie
that's
just
its third weekend of being out.
just
So you're getting a
pulling
lot of
bank.
people who just waited and said, "No, we'll just go the holiday weekend and go
We'll
check
go
that
with
out there."
the family on Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, and then in weekend 4 for Harry Potter, Die Another Day is going to jump back over it again to take first.
Wow.
Uh,
You do not usually see that type of battle.
no, I think it's just Harry Potter on Thanksgiving Day weekend was never going to lose. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
such a family movie. And
But
Harry
also
Potter
like,
comes in third this week with 10 million behind.
oh
In
wow, so
second
Trump.
place, I'm gonna see if you can guess this one. I'll give you, it's a mafia comedy.
Mafia comedy.
Yeah, mafia comedy.
Um well, it's gotta be either Analyze This or the sequel, right? Analyze
No
That.
comment. You're gonna have to guess one.
Oh fuck off. 2002. I can't remember the first one came out in '02 or I'm gonna say it's Analyze That.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
it's the
there you go,
sequel.
baby. There you go, baby.
Um, interesting. This opening weekend for Adaptation, which I'm assuming is that one with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, the like Charlie Kaufman movie.
Yeah, yeah, the Charlie Kaufman movie. Yeah. And then
It
also
is
coming out this
interesting
week.
though that Die Another Day like managed to reclaim the number one spot like in the third weekend because like usually movies that have bad word of mouth and do not do well critically like don't hold up like that. So it's interesting that it was able to reclaim number one and keep making money despite like being considered one of like it was the Bond movie that pretty much ended Pierce Brosnan as Bond. So like it's crazy that it was doing that battle with Harry Potter, regarded as like
Yeah.
the
I
franchise
mean,
in this time period.
it helps that the second place movie is, there's no big movies opening, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Like it helps that Analyze That is the biggest opener this weekend with 11 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like it's still down to 12.8 million dollars, so compared to its opening and compared to like what they were probably hoping for, it's not really doing it. Die Another Day. It's just
that's true.
barely
That's true.
beating out some
And also like
no
it
way it
won
was
the
really gonna
weekend
be a
after
movie.
Thanksgiving, which is like considered one of the slowest weekends like of the year.
Exactly, right. Because everybody's doing holiday stuff. Like they're probably gonna go to a movie in like late December if they go at all. And then let's just ride Harry Potter out of the top 10. Weekend 5, it comes in 6th with 6.3 million. Weekend 6, it comes in 9th with 4.3 million. We're just barely hanging on here.
Woo.
Jumps back up to 8th place for weekend 7,
Okay.
10th place for weekend 8, and then
Ooh.
finally in weekend 9, it drops out of the top 10 down to 15th place.
Oh, it was so close, Jim. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone spent 9 weeks in the top 10. So this one's going to have to settle for 1 week less. It's going to settle in at 8 weeks with other notable movies like The Lost World, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Spider-Man, and Goldmember.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and then just another interesting tidbit here. In the December 27th to the 29th, so like that weekend right after Christmas, it did go up 48% from the previous weekend. It pulled in like 6.5 million that weekend
It's crazy.
and stayed in the top 10. We've talked about these holiday movies a bunch. Like when it dropped out in week 9, we're all the way up to January 10th. So it stays there like basically from Thanksgiving through New Year's, and then like a couple weeks after that, it's on its way out.
Yeah, so it basically just ran roughshod through that holiday season.
Indeed.
Which is
And then
it's interesting then that the next Harry Potter movie they would release in June. It's weird that they would switch up out of that Thanksgiving formula since it proved so fruitful, these two movies.
yeah, I mean, I have a thought on that. It might be better to talk about for Prisoner of Azkaban, but I have a theory as to why that is.
Oh, color me intrigued.
Yeah. Um yeah, I mean we could talk about it then or now, whatever you prefer.
Whatever you prefer. You're the
Well,
one. You're
so
the one
all right,
dropping the
we'll
lore
we'll
here.
talk about it now as like a little bit of a precursor for Prisoner of Azkaban. So like these first two movies are much more family movies than Prisoner of Azkaban is. Prisoner of Azkaban gets like weirder and a little bit darker, I would say. It's
Mhm.
like less of a movie I'm going to my kids with on Thanksgiving and being like, you know what, this was a great day with the family. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah, I could see that. I guess because it's like that was the first movie that was noticeable where the kids are starting to age, so you're starting to get into more of those like young adult themes as opposed to just
Yeah.
like the childlike wonder. So I
It's
guess
the
it may.
movie where they stop wearing robes and they start wearing Abercrombie. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah, dude, that is still the funniest shit ever. He's in like a fucking Aeropostale like sweatshirt. It's like, dude, you like
yeah.
what is this?
But so that's like these first two, especially with the Christopher Columbus ones, are definitely family holiday movies. Where I think that the third one is closer to a summer blockbuster, is the way I would put it.
Makes sense. I could see that.
But all right, and then just some totals. It finishes with 262 million domestic, 617 million international for a worldwide total of 879 million.
Ooh, dear lordy, lordy, lord. All right, so again, the 879, a bit of a dip, not good enough to match the Sorcerer's Stone's 974, but still nothing to sneeze at. 879, good enough to fall on number 4 here on our list, just behind Star Wars Episode 1, which had 924, and just ahead of The Fellowship of the Ring, which had 868. So nothing to sneeze at. And that
Yeah,
879 worldwide too was the second highest grossing film of 2002.
yeah. It's not nothing to sneeze at. These people are still just as stoked as they were after they made the first one because they're
Oh,
saying
absolutely.
like we
They
have at
know,
least 5 more of these that they're coming up in the
yeah,
next 10 years.
they know they're printing money for like the next 10 years. Because that even on the like you look at the domestic front, 262, fourth highest of 2002. International, that's 617, highest grossing international movie of the year. So this absolutely far and away a success. Even if it came in a little lighter than Sorcerer's Stone, still an absolute success there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, these movies like will continue to be huge successes, I'm pretty sure, as we go on. It's not really
Yeah.
breaking any news to anybody.
Yeah, and I think they realized, especially with this, because it's like Sorcerer's Stone came in at like 9 something. We got Chamber at 8 something. Even if we're fluctuating in that like $100 million range, we're printing ridiculous amounts of money. So like that, we're riding that to the bank regardless. So that's huge on them. And clearly they know they've got a big hit on their hands because not only is this movie doing well at the box office, but it does well critically. These are considered classics for a reason. 82% Rotten Tomatoes, 7.4 on IMDb. But big one here, Jim. I think this might be our first one since we started charting this. An A
Oh,
plus cinema score. It's the only Harry Potter movie to get an A plus cinema score.
that's interesting because I think we're about to kind of dive into likes and dislikes here, so I'm just gonna take
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
ball and run with it.
Do it.
Um,
Take
I
that
think
bludger.
that there is a good like 70 to 80-minute stretch of this movie where I think you could argue it's like the best part of any Harry Potter movie. Like basically once the Chamber of Secret stuff really gets going, um there's like a good like 70 to 80-minute stretch of that movie where it's insanely good. It's like um so I really love like the second half of this movie is what I would say. And I think that it's much more interesting than the one we've done so far where last episode we did for this, we didn't even really get into a lot of the actual like plot mechanics that happened at the end of the first Harry Potter movie, like the wizard's chess game and like that whole like getting past Cerberus. Like we didn't talk a lot about that stuff because to me it wasn't really the thing that was interesting about the movie. Whereas in this one, the mystery of the Chamber of Secrets and kind of how they're getting to the bottom of it and how it's affecting Harry Potter's time at school is seriously so good and probably the best part of this whole thing.
Absolutely. I think this movie is really good in how it presents the dark overtones of the mystery of this movie very well. Like I like that there's this running like it's like the first movie is very much kind of it feels almost episodic in a way like we talk a lot about it like in that previous episode how there would be these random like cuts to black which would like kind of signify that like we're leaving this portion behind, we're going on to the next segment of the movie,
Yeah.
like to signify time passing. And there, even though there still is large amounts of time passing in this movie, it's a whole school year, they don't do that in this one because they just use the threat of this mystery to tie us throughout the year. So like
Well,
I
they do have those cuts a couple of times, by the way. I don't remember exactly when they are, but there's at least like two or three of them where it just goes to black and then goes to the next
Yeah,
thing.
but they're way fewer than the first movie.
I think they're way less noticeable than the first
Yeah,
movie,
because
but
I
because of exactly the reason you're saying.
yeah, because like you don't even really notice it because you're just entrenched in this mystery, and it's interesting. I wonder if like they could even see the writing on the wall. You know, you talked about how they're moving the release date to June possibly because we're getting into more darker themes with the next movie. But this movie has plenty of dark shit in it. Like this is a much more noticeably darker movie than I remembered it being. Like I always used to remember, being as a kid that like it was just really like the spider scene and then when he fights the basilisk that feels like really like dark and heavy for like a kids movie, but there's so much stuff throughout this movie that is just like unnerving, especially for like young kids coming to see this movie.
Yeah, I mean, the when people start showing up paralyzed, it starts to get really heavy, and like the
Yeah,
reasons behind
they
why certain people are getting paralyzed are like really high level, like intense kind of like philosophical stuff, I guess.
yeah, like I didn't realize as a kid because you don't when you're a kid, or at least how I was as a kid, I didn't really, we talked about this in the science episode and stuff like that. Like the really heavy thematical stuff, I think I wasn't mentally mature enough yet to really grasp them and understand them. But now that I'm older and I've, like started to like actually grow an appreciation for learning about history and learning about like actual things outside of just the bubble of me being a kid, and you start to see the parallels between like Tom Riddle and like Nazism, you're kind of like, damn, movie, like this movie is like really fucking dark for a kids movie. Like they want to like
Yeah,
expunge muggle, like half muggle wizards. Like that's pretty fucking dark. Like
yeah. What I would say, like in 2000 and what was it, 2003? I think you said, right?
2002.
In 2003, this kind of thing kind of felt like, yeah, well, that's what we're doing. So like, quit preaching to me. Like, leave me alone about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see this in everything. Like, okay, fine. Whereas now it's kind of like, wow, this is a bit closer to home. Like,
Like,
This
hey, you
feels
really
a lot
touched a
different
nerve
than it did
there.
in 2003. Maybe this was important that they said this to us back then. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Maybe we should have paid a little bit more attention to this back then.
But so like that whole stuff, and yeah, I mean it's definitely intense and wild, and the fact that like it's escalating and different people keep getting caught, and then like I think this is my favorite part about it, that the movie finds a way for the school to pin it on Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's so cool that that's what's going on in the second half of the movie, and he's talking to the snake just trying to get it to stop from attacking the kid, but everybody just hears him talking in parcel tongue, so they're like, "Oh my god, what was he telling that snake to do? He was gonna get him."
Yeah. So yeah, that is really good. I also like that, especially in the context with Harry Potter too. It's such a good obstacle movie in the sense that, all this like really dark and heavy shit that we just talked about. Like you were talking about like pretty much the rise of a Hitler-esque character, and who is the only one that can stop him at this fucking huge school of the greatest wizards you've ever seen? This 13-year-old kid. It's like,
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing, and this is maybe like a nitpick, right? How rare is it for people to speak parcel tongue, do you think?
I mean, it's got to be pretty rare that everyone's just like instantly thinking that Harry is the heir of Slytherin. Because, like, if anyone can speak parcel tongue, then it's not that impressive. Like, it's got to
Yeah,
be like a 1 in a million type deal.
I guess, yeah, because that's what threw me off about it, is they're like, yeah, we searched for the Chamber of Secrets, and it's really not all that well hidden. I guess the thing is you need to speak parcel tongue.
Yeah,
So, like, I guess if they could never find anybody who spoke that, but it just seemed like there'd be like at least one other person in the world they could call, right? I don't
would
know.
think. But also, like, it's funny if like you really start to think about it, because it's like it's not like Harry Potter was related to Voldemort. Like Voldemort just like hit him with the avocadabra, but it backfired on him. But suddenly, like that gave Harry the ability to speak parcel tongue. Like it's not genetic. Like what about what he did just suddenly gave him the ability to tap into parcel tongue? And also, like even if it was a really like hard language, if you found one person that could speak it, couldn't then other people just like study it and figure it out?
I guess. I don't know. It seems like it's like a magical power. So it's not necessarily like just because you talk like they're talking that you can do it, I think.
You gotta
Because
have
they're
like
using
you gotta have the
magic in some
power
way to
behind
do
the
it.
words.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. But it was just like an interesting piece of the movie that kind of goes mostly unexplained. And for a good chunk of it, I was like, well, like nobody thought to just check that sink. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, right. Like
it seems
there's
like you
so
guys
much
could have found
magical
this place
shit.
if you were really trying. Like,
But also like once they found out that it was in like the vet, like in like the pipes, like just send somebody into the pipes.
yeah, true. Right, right. And so, like, that was a little bit hokey, like, that it does end up somehow falling on this 12-year-old shoulders, like, or
Especially when you got
11-year-old
like
shoulders.
yeah, you've got like the greatest wizards to ever live like at this like school. And again, dude, it's funny that we talked about how in the like in the first movie that it was like, we got Alan Rickman as Snape, but he doesn't really have much to do. He's got fuck all to do in this movie.
Yeah, but he somehow still steals the show.
He's always got great presence, but like, he makes his one or two scenes memorable enough that like you're gonna remember he was there. You'll think he was there
Yeah.
the entire movie.
When they show up with the flying car and get like do the whole Whomping Willow thing and then get caught and they're in the office and Snape is like chewing him out.
Eh,
Alan Rickman's so good in that scene. He's just totally commanding.
yes, he's so great. One of my favorite of the wizards in this movie, man. I love Kenneth Branagh.
Oh yeah, he's
Branagh
awesome.
as Gilderoy Lockhart, the new defense, the dark arts
Defense
teacher.
Against the Dark Arts teacher,
Yeah,
yeah.
just everything about him, just absolute gold. From the moment we meet him, where he just like sees Harry Potter and he's like, "This is a photo op, like let's go,"
Yeah, we'll make the front page.
and then he just pushes him out of the way as soon as he's got the picture. Like,
Dude, it's one of the funniest parts of this movie, I think, when does his first class and he comes down the stairs and next to him there's a painting of him painting
eh,
a painting of
painting
him.
of him,
It's
it's
like
so good.
it's
Like
so
that's a bit
funny.
you would see in like a spoof movie. but like works just well enough in this one to be to fit properly in this universe.
Yeah, and then he hands out the quizzes on the first day, and they're just all questions about him. Like every single question's like, what is his favorite color? It's
Yeah,
just it's such a good way to set up that character because it's exactly who he is. He's just totally self-centered, totally vain.
just an absolute showman. And it's so great. I like the payoff for it to bite him back in the ass is that all that bravado unravels himself once the chamber is open and like Snape and McGonagall are like, yeah, well, you can handle this, right? Like you handle this shit all the time.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Or dude, in the dueling, when Snape hits him with that spell and he gets up and he's like, "Ah, yeah, of course, I could have blocked it, but I wanted you guys to see." And like,
It's
he
like I wanted you guys to see how not to react to that.
yeah, he's just so transparent, dude.
He's
Like, what do
so
you
good.
think? Had to
What?
know he was full of shit, right? That's why they said that to him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like they were hoping he got in the Chamber of Secrets. Like they were just like tired of this guy. They're like, "Go send him down there and he'll never come back."
Just also a crazy move. Like I get like being annoyed at your coworker, but then to be like, hey, there's something killing people down there. We're like, let's send the douchebag we don't like down there
Yeah,
and hope it
it's
kills
like
him.
he seems so transparent, right? Like I don't think Snape and McGonagall would fall for his act.
Oh no, not at all. They absolutely see right there, which is then hilarious that it's like, how did he get that job? Because like you would think Dumbledore would see through that act immediately too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's
Unless,
an interesting one. I don't
unless
really
like
know.
Dumbledore is such like an absolute madman, like master chess piece player that he's just like, I'm gonna put him there because like I want to see how he plays off of Harry and what happens there.
Maybe he put somebody incompetent in charge just to challenge Harry. I don't
So
know.
it is. Well, because every year there's a different dark arts teacher that's in some way just so not good enough to do that job.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, isn't that a thing from the books that it's kind of cursed, that job? Because it's
Yeah,
always a
yeah,
new person?
yeah, and they don't really talk about it in the movies. It's always just every year there's a new one. But yeah, I remember in the books they do hype that up that it's like there's all the kids like always rumor that like that position is cursed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. He is Kenneth Branagh is probably one of my favorite parts of this though. Yeah.
Oh
Just
yeah,
the character he plays is so fucking funny.
he's so great, and like the perfect British actor to get to play that too. Like he's one of those guys that's like can effortlessly float between like whimsically funny and then like dead serious, and like I
Yeah, oh,
buy it every time.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's great. Now,
Great payoff too that he gets hit with his own memory charm because of Ron's broken wand from like all the
yeah,
way back in the beginning.
yeah, that's a good pay. There are a lot of good payoffs in this, and stuff that pays off, from previous movies too. Like we talked about Harry's parcel tongue, and they set that up in the first movie with him talking to the snake. We just don't know that he was speaking in parcel tongue because we just see their conversation as if it was happening in English.
Yeah.
But it's like that's a good
Yeah,
payoff.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's like one of the benefits of them sticking to the source material in some parts because I think a lot of that stuff in the early books is really well thought out. Um, there's also a lot of good Easter eggs for future movies in this one, which I have to give credit to my girlfriend because she pointed out a bunch of them to me. But
Really?
yeah, the box that Harry hides in that magic shop, the same boxes that like the Death Eaters come out of, I think, in the fourth movie.
Oh, really?
I think so. You know how they like all come out of those like big stone things into the
Yeah,
tournament at the end?
yeah.
It's like I'm pretty sure he hides in one of those. There's like a bunch of stuff inside that like dark magic shop. I think that's supposed to be where like Voldemort worked or something as like a teenager, and that's something you find out later on in the series.
Interesting.
So there is like a lot of that cool stuff. But what do I always talk about with stuff like that?
But what's it if it needs to be self-contained?
Yeah, it needs to be like a great standalone movie for me to
Yeah.
really love it. So like I want to get into some stuff that I didn't like as much about this one.
Okay.
So I said before there's like a 70 or 80 minute stretch that's probably the best in any of these movies.
Hmm.
And my biggest problem is that in a 2.5 hour movie, it takes us so long to get to that stretch, right? And then, like, why does it take us so long? It's because we're in Diagon Alley setting up all this stuff, or like, you know what I mean?
Well, there
Like,
is a ridiculous amount of setup in this movie again.
yeah, I mean, the first half hour feels like a totally different movie than the rest of the movie. Basically, everything before they get to Hogwarts is feels like totally different. Like it feels like you're the first movie is a movie about Harry Potter like finding a home, right? And his home is
Yeah.
Hogwarts.
Yeah.
It feels like if you were gonna make a sequel, a really good sequel could be like a house elf tries to stop him from going back to Hogwarts, but Harry can't let that happen because it's his home now. You know what I mean? Like somebody's trying to take away from him the thing that he just got. So like the first half hour of this feels like the beginning of a completely different movie. Like where that's what's happening to me.
Well, it's almost like that's where like it feels like the episodicness of it dives in again because you have that whole like first portion, and then only once he gets to the Hogwarts does it we suddenly start to get into like, oh no, it's actually about this Chamber of Secrets. And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
it kind of all like ties into each other because it does deal in with the threat of what Dobby was trying to keep Harry from going back to Hogwarts for. But they definitely could have done a better job of building that. Like
well,
maybe it's something. Yeah, go on.
think of it this way, right? If you take out every scene with Dobby in this movie, how much different is it?
Oh, not at all. Well, that was I was going to add my one of my least favorite things about this movie is fucking Dobby. I can't stand him.
So it's hard because he's probably one of my favorite things. Like the slapstick scenes that happen between him and Harry
Dude,
Potter, where he just ends up disappearing at the end, are like some of the funniest things in this
he just
movie.
starts like slapping himself in Harry's room and like hitting himself like against the cabinets. It's like, dude, like, what are you doing, man? Like, stop.
Yeah, when he drops the cake on her and Harry was right there to catch it, so it looks like he dropped it. Like there's like some good like Three Stooges kind of humor going on with them. So like I like the parts with Dobby, but again, if you take every single one of those out, this movie's not that much different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even the Quidditch scene where he gets hit by the bludger, if you take that out, the movie's not that much different. Like it's still about the Chamber of Secrets and what ends up happening with the diary and Voldemort and all that stuff. Um, so I don't know. To me, that's one where like, of course, Dobby's gonna be in the movie because they're definitely gonna stick to that source material. But it's to me, it's one where sticking to the source material hurts, and like all the stuff you're setting up there with Lucius Malfoy, that is gonna be interesting in later movies. Again, though, like, what does it have to do with? How does it make this standalone movie better? You know?
And it's very background stuff, all the stuff that's happening with Lucius, because like he shows up in the beginning, we get the setup of meeting him, and then he doesn't come back in until like the back half of the second of this movie where they're removing Hagrid, and then he shows up again. Like he's really only in for like 4 or 5 scenes. So it's like for something that's supposed to
Right.
be such a looming presence of evil within this movie, he takes a huge backdrop to the majority of it.
Yeah, and I mean like there's that weird like who's ever even heard of the Hogwarts governors before or since this movie? You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
totally comes out of left field where I mean you can follow it, but it's just like, wait, what is he doing? Like why is Dumbledore leaving? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's weird too. When they're just like, if he's like, if they want me to step aside, I will, and then we just never see him again until like the end of the movie. It's
Yeah.
like, so you just left, dude. Like what? Like,
Yeah. But so yeah, and but especially the stuff in the beginning of this movie with Lucius Malfoy, I'm kind of just like, oh my god, what's the point of any of this? And then like I know he drops the book in Ginny's bag at some point, which is kind of important. But I don't know. It just felt like even the scene with the car, it felt like if they had crashed that car somewhere other than Hogwarts, then I'm like halfway through a movie about them trying to still get back to Hogwarts. And then all of a sudden they actually just got to Hogwarts and a whole different movie starts.
yeah.
Because I don't know, like, do you know the scene when they go to practice Quidditch, but then Slytherin's like, we've got a note, and it's like Draco Malfoy's first practice? And you know he ends up calling Hermione a slur by the end of it, and it's like a whole thing. That's the first scene of the actual movie for me, if that makes sense. Like because then that's what the rest of the movie's about is like the battle with Slytherin, and you know Slytherin's kind of racist and they're saying like all kinds of bad words that you wouldn't use in polite conversation, as Hermione said.
Fucking Hermione. Yeah, so I guess maybe they just had to find a better way to through line that in the stuff before they go to Hogwarts. Because obviously, like, we can't just start at Hogwarts. We have to get that opening where he's still back with the Dursleys, and everything
Yeah,
going on. And I don't hate, any of the beginning stuff. Like, I definitely agree with you there that I think this movie needs to be way, way shorter. It is far too long. But
uh-huh.
I was actually pretty into all the stuff in the beginning, and I liked it because it just expands on the world, in a sense, in that we're getting to know a little bit more characterization the of the kids that we're meeting and why these kids kind of are how they are, this nature versus nurture thing. Because Harry gets freed from his pseudo prison that he's in. I love that too, where like the Dursleys are like, "Do you know how good we were? We gave you his old spare room, and you're gonna treat us
Yeah,
like
his
this."
second bedroom.
Yeah, the second bedroom, but he's got fucking like bars on the windows still. Like, so he's like still in prison, but just of a better design.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
like Ron and the boys show up and take him out, and you start to get that you know subtle ways of building that theme of like the racism of Slytherin, because we meet Ron's family, and we see how like loving and warm they are, and how like even though they have very little, they've got love, and that's really all that matters. And like Harry gets up there and he meets Ron's dad, and the first thing Ron's dad asks is, he just starts asking him questions about Muggles. He's like, "Why do they use like whatever it is? Like, that's so interesting." Like, he's just so inquisitive about it. And then so like you're learning more about like, oh, so this is how like Ron is able to be like this quirky, like fun, like loving little kid. It's like because he comes from this family where even though they don't have the greatest amount of means, they've got warmth and love, and that's all they need. And then we meet the inverse of that when we go to meet Gilderoy Lockhart, when we first meet Lucian, and we're like, oh, of course Draco is a dick. Like, look at his father. This guy is like a walking piece of shit. Like, he
Yeah,
comes
and
in with
I
like the
can
fucking cane, the long straight white hair. Like, they were like, look at this fucking guy.
yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like the whole thing with the Weasleys does kind of fit in with what the rest of the movie's about. You're kind of turning me a little bit here.
Because it definitely does, like, it's one of those ones that does feel like much more lower stakes because it's not as overt. But I definitely feel like all those scenes do serve that purpose of building into the, at least the themes. Like, it might not be the plot heaviness that's building us into what the Chamber of Secrets and all that big mystery is, but it definitely helps us set the stage for like characters, thought processes, and actions, and why a lot of these kids that we're going to follow in Hogwarts are the way that they are. And it's that like nature versus nurture, like who our parents were,
Sure.
type of scenario.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is that we don't see one from Hermione's perspective, especially since like we're getting the idea where it's like they think these half Muggle-borns are lesser than, but we never really see Hermione's life outside of what exists in Hogwarts.
Yeah, and like I can definitely see the way you're contextualizing it and like how that does lend itself to the bigger plot, but like part of the problem for me is you don't really know that's what's going on. And like you're saying, if you do something with Hermione, for example, then you get a sense of like she's different in some way. You know what I mean? And like here's why, kind of a thing. It is interesting though, like the way that they're just curious about Muggles, like the Weasleys are curious about Muggles and treat them as kind of like a good thing to want to get to know about, I guess, versus the Malfoys, which are obviously the exact opposite of that. Um, and then yeah, I guess like I'm kind of grading it on a curve, I think, against the first movie,
Mm.
where everything that happens in the first, like before he gets to Hogwarts period, is what the movie's about. You know what I mean? It's about Harry Potter, like the main character protagonist, like learning where he's actually from and what he actually like where he actually belongs and where his actual home is. That theme is so strong in the first one, and those early scenes tie so directly into it and how that plays out throughout the rest of the movie. It's like too perfect, and that's part of why I gave it 5 stars. I don't know
Mm.
that this movie does it quite as gracefully, I guess, is what I would say.
I can see
Like
that.
it feels like it drags in the first half hour or so,
Gotcha.
is the
Well,
best way I can put it.
it's definitely a bit more, I feel like, of a balancing act because, like you said, in this first one, that whole first movie is all centered around Harry Potter, and it's all centered around, like you said, this kid finding out, his true home and where he really belongs and comes from. Whereas in this one, it's more like Harry Potter is almost Indiana Jones. Like he doesn't really change throughout the movie. He's just thrust into this adventure that he's kind of got to like figure out. Cause like he's
Yeah.
not a muggle born person that like the Slytherin people are rallying against that they're like trying to do. He's mostly just like stumbled into this thing that he has to stop.
Yeah,
But, like
absolutely.
yeah.
And so you're I think you're hitting on it. Harry Potter doesn't change. So let me ask you this. Who in this movie does change by the end of it? Nobody, right?
Couldn't
It's
tell you.
nobody.
Couldn't tell you. Nobody.
It's like everybody's exactly the same as they were in the beginning, except for Voldemort book version, who's now dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The only person who
um,
changes is Voldemort, where he's like, I gotta change my fucking plan again.
yeah, like Lucian Malfoy doesn't learn anything.
Nope.
Draco Malfoy doesn't learn anything.
Nope.
Ron, Harry, and Hermione were all great in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, you
Hermione
didn't
gets
need to
taken
learn
out of half
anything.
the movie. They just
Yeah,
petrify her. And like she's the one who would have the most like agency to be a part of that finish because it's proving that like no people that have muggle blood in them are still just as valuable here as other people. So she absolutely, I feel like, should have been a part of that finale.
yeah, and it's just another like good reason for why she should be in the beginning too, because that helps drive home that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like it
So
very
like I
much
don't
feels
know.
like Harry is definitely, like he's the main character. So he's the one who's kind of going to be like Indiana Jones here, like helping solve the problem. But this almost feels like this movie should have been Hermione's movie for her to go through that change of, showing not only Slytherin and Hogwarts and everybody that those types of wizards and witches have purpose here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that point does need to be made in this movie. I don't see how you could avoid it and
Yeah.
like think that it's the best it can be. Um, and then yeah, like my thing is it needs to be Harry, and part of the reason why the first movie and the third movie are so much better than this movie, in my opinion. And like maybe I'm like burying the lead here a little bit on the third one, or jumping the gun on the third one, but I've said a lot about it already, right?
You have. It's no
Um,
surprise.
Part of the reason the first and the third one are so much better than this one to me is because they are indisputably Harry Potter's movies. You know what I mean? Like they're
Absolutely.
about him starting from a place where he's flawed and getting to a place where he's overcome that flaw, the first two movies. And this
Yep.
one is less like that.
Yeah, this one is mostly just like he's solving a problem at Hogwarts. He's a fixer. He's the
Yeah.
PI coming in to figure out why everyone's been petrified.
Yeah, and it is a really cool problem, don't get me wrong. Like I love the finale of this when the Phoenix comes and blinds the snake and
Drops the
he's
sword
fighting
off
the
for
book
him.
version of Voldemort who's about to become the real life version of Voldemort. I love it's a really cool way because like we all know there's like the like how Harry Potter ends and how he ends up being a Horcrux, right?
Yeah,
I love the way that the Voldemort in this never lets on about that because they don't know about it because it's the 16-year-old version of Voldemort. Like it's like that's cool to look back on, like where when he was a teenager, he couldn't even imagine doing the crazy thing that he did with Harry Potter. Like it's
yeah,
beyond the pale even for him, you know? He wasn't even that advanced or wasn't even thinking about it yet. And so like it's just an interesting nod when you know how that goes to be like, oh wow, like even he can't figure out what he did. Like he's so ahead of the game on how he's gonna survive.
yeah. Well, no, she was really good in how she put those breadcrumbs throughout like this entire franchise like this because you could see a lot of that work here in these early movies. And yeah, and I think yeah, and I agree with you that that whole finale and the whole like idea of this movie is great. And I like the idea of like this mystery and what he has to solve and everything. I just think it needed something more to give it that spice to make it more Harry's journey than it just being like Harry's just here to fix the problem. Like he's got to stop
Absolutely.
Voldemort from showing back up again. It's like, yeah, he did that last year. Like, all right, let's just do it again. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean like I don't even know exactly how you tweak it, but
Oh,
it's
neither
just
do I. But
that's my biggest critique with it is that it's exactly what you just said. It doesn't feel like he grows or changes throughout this movie, and it's all very cool, and it's very like it's interesting, the antagonist and everything, but it's missing that extra oomph that would put it into 5-star territory, like I did with the first one.
I definitely could feel that, but there is like a lot. I really do like a lot of the scenes in this movie, and I think a lot of the stuff is a lot of fun in this. Like I love the freaking scene when they go in to go meet the spiders and everything.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it has some of my favorite things that I love in movies, and that is great practical effects work. That big, huge spider, and it's just kind of like you can tell it's like almost like a mixture of like an animatronic and just like actual practical effects. Like it doesn't look CGI whatsoever when it like slowly comes out of its mound and is talking to them. I'm like, dude, every time I see it now, I'm like, dude, that looks fucking great, man. Like that looks so fucking good.
Yeah, that whole part's so creepy. Yeah, and I mean, it's amazing that the spider like sells them out too.
Eh.
Yeah.
The spider's just like, I'll tell you all you need to know, and then I'm gonna eat you.
Yeah, she couldn't deny her children fresh blood.
All right, the French blood, which also like you would think it would be like, yeah, you know, like Hagrid comes in, takes care of me all these years, then like Hagrid sends 2 of his boys in here, like I'm just gonna fuck them up immediately, like that's not gonna backfire on me.
Yeah, right. Hagrid's gonna be totally chill with that.
Yeah, right. Hagrid's gonna show up and see the bloodied carcasses of Ron and Harry and just be like, yeah, all right, sure.
Of those 2 children that he sent there.
Dude,
But
that's a scene I love that really just shows how fucking great Dumbledore is when
oh
they show
yeah.
up to arrest Hagrid, and you know Dumbledore is like making that like claim to like people, and you see him look directly at them even though they're in the invisibility cloak, and you just know that he fucking knows that they're there, and it's like, dude, like Dumbledore's a fucking OG, man.
Yeah, yeah. Because you're right, he's talking to them too. I forgot exactly what
Yeah.
he says, but
Yeah, I forget exactly what he says, but he says something along the lines that like points them like towards like the right thing to do.
yeah.
And it's like, I love that that's just a time tested thing for Dumbledore, that he's just like a lot of really bad shit is going on in the world right now, and I'm gonna totally pin it on this 13-year-old kid to fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he does
Absolutely.
it like in every movie. He's like, Harry,
And
I got a
it's
lot of shit going on right now, man. I need you to figure this shit out.
yeah. Well, because he knows, I mean, not to get too deep into later movies again, but he knows way more than we do at this point about the whole thing,
Well,
right?
he knows that Harry is the only person that's going to be able to not stop Dumbledore, to stop Voldemort. Like if
Right.
Voldemort
And he
comes
might
back, Harry is the only one that can fight him and possibly beat him.
right, and he
So
might even know exactly why at this point, even though
yeah,
it's like not even on our radar at all. But
yeah.
even if he doesn't know, he very clearly knows what you're saying is true. Yeah.
So basically, like what he's doing is just training this kid from a straight a young age. He's like, I gotta throw this
Exactly.
kid into the fucking fire, man, because
Exactly.
if he can't fucking beat the Chamber of Secrets, man, we're fucked.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he needs to like learn how to do this shit and deal with it.
Yeah, and I love in that scene too. Like it's again just shows great characterization. You know, because you have Dumbledore who's so subtle about it, and like no one realizes that he's speaking to Harry and Ron without doing it. And then you have Hagrid, who they're like, "Come on, Hagrid," and he's like, if there's anybody listening right now, say to him, follow the forest." And it's like, "The fuck are
Yeah.
you saying, man?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, and I mean, I love that the way that ends too is like him pulling the sword out of the hat. Like that's like kind of his moment, like where he kind of like at least in that moment he understands that he is courageous, right? Which I think is
yeah,
kind of what Dumbledore's going for this whole time. And so I don't know, maybe we're not being quite so generous when we say he doesn't grow at all, but like I don't know. I feel like that if that's the point and that's what's supposed to happen in the climax, that he becomes more courageous and realizes that he actually is the good guy and belongs in Gryffindor and all that stuff. I feel like you could do such a better job of that in the first hour. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, it doesn't
Like,
help that like if he's supposed like if the idea is that he's going to grow to learn to be courageous, then that should be something that he should be struggling with throughout the movie. And you don't really see that
well,
because he always stands up to Malfoy, like he's always like he's you see that he's courageous even from the get-go in the first movie when he stands up to Malfoy. So it's like it
yeah,
would be more interesting in this movie if you see him as he's starting to like know that he talks parcel tongue, and people are starting to think that he's the heir of Slytherin, and he's starting to go through this crisis where he's thinking like, am I the fucking bad guy here?
Right,
You see
right.
him start to falter. But you never really see the moments where he falters. He's just like questioning. He's like, am I the
Yeah.
one? But that's it. Like he just questions it.
Yeah, but it is cool. It is part of what makes that 70 to 80 minutes some of my favorite of any of these movies, is that whole like identity crisis. And it pays off in a way, but then it's the same thing I was saying earlier, like what does the first hour of the movie have anything to do with any of that stuff? You know what I mean? Like,
No, agreed.
yeah, I don't know. This is just an interesting one. This is an interesting one. I watched this like 2 or 3 times, but and I've probably seen this one more than any of these movies at this point, because I would say in the last 8 months I've probably watched this one like 6 times.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
watched it twice too, because I watched it the first time, and then when we had to move around doing this, I watched it again to still be fresh. And I definitely, as these first two, have grown a much better appreciation for them than I had previously. So it's been really fun to go back and watch these two ones especially, and see these portions of this movie that give me that newfound respect for them.
Yeah. By the way, the Quidditch scene again, spectacular.
Yeah, no, I think this one especially, yeah, I think is a lot better because there's purpose within showing. It's not just like, hey, watch this really stupid Quidditch match that has like the rules mean absolutely nothing. In this one, the rules don't matter. Harry's just trying to stay fucking alive.
Yeah, yeah, and he still catches the snitch, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
cool.
and he still catches a
Like
snitch,
they
which
don't
shows
even
how much of a
stop him from winning, let
this
alone
kid is an
playing.
absolute baller.
Yeah, and a great cap off with the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher evaporating all of his bones in his arm.
Yeah,
Like how anybody thinks that guy's competent at anything is beyond me. By
they're like
halfway through
right
this
there. They
movie.
should have been like, get this guy out of the school.
Yeah, he just he just made a kid's bones disappear. Like who gave him a wand?
Not only a kid, just like probably the most famous kid in our school. Like,
Yeah.
do you have anything else that we haven't touched upon that you think that you feel that you need to bare your soul about?
Just Moaning Myrtle is fucking amazing.
I don't know who told that actress to be so freaking erotic with it, but she needed to
Yeah.
scale it down. But I'm like, this is a kids movie, and like some of the way she delivers some of those lines, I'm like, why? I'm like, this girl's delivering these lines as if she's in a softcore porno. Like,
Dude, she did not need to go nearly as hard as she went.
dude,
She was so great.
she went
I love
so hard.
she just like she's so over the top. It's great though. When they go in and she like flooded the bathroom and she's like, someone threw a book at me. And then they like kind of rib on her for it, and she goes ballistic, and she's like punching him through the chest and like through his head while she's like doing the lines. It's so funny.
Yeah, dude, she is out of control in this movie. Like whenever she does like the soft, like innocent voice, I'm like, you need to stop. Like, please stop doing that.
Yeah. Dude, by the way, do you know how old the actress who played her was when this movie came
Way
out?
older than people
Yeah, she
probably
was like
thought.
she's somewhere in her 30s. She's like somebody from one of the Doctor Who, David Tennant Doctor Who episodes. But
That's
she's like an adult. She's like in her 30s when this movie came out.
amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like, it just we talk about it so much, just that classic, like hire full-grown adults to play children, and it's great every time.
Yeah. I mean, her scenes are some of the most interesting scenes in the whole movie. I like like and she steals the show in every single one of them as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Also, like, what a fucking hilarious name to name her too. It's like we're gonna call her Moaning Myrtle. Please, why? Why? Anything else?
It's
No,
such
but
a
it's
good
because
flavor of
she
the word.
cries about a lot. She's always in there like moaning and whining, and it's like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Don't tell me that was an accident. No, that's just such funny flavor to add to Hogwarts too. That there's just a bathroom that nobody uses because there's a ghost who's like a total weirdo that hangs out in it.
Dude, everything about Hogwarts makes it like in the like it's so funny watching the movie how they build up to be this whimsical place that you'd want to go. But like as an adult watching it, I'm like, dude, that school looks like a fucking nightmare, man. Like I could just be walking upstairs and it just turns a different direction. And suddenly I gotta like walk 9 miles to get to my class. Like I'd be so pissed.
Of course, yeah. Um, but yeah, no. So Moaning Myrtle was just my last thing. That was like it definitely needed at least an honorable mention.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
She's
and one more.
yeah.
When the housekeeper, whatever his name is, the groundskeeper's cat gets paralyzed,
Oh, Filch
and
or whatever his name is. The guy from Game of Thrones.
yeah, this is up there for my favorite like small visual that happens in the movie. The kid like pulls up the camera to take a picture, and somebody just pushes his arms down. Like he's gonna take a picture of the cat, and somebody's like, "No, dude, we draw the line before the cat. Like, put that
Like,
down."
absolutely. Come on, we're talking about journalistic integrity here, kid. What are you doing?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I don't know. I
dude,
think
that
that's
kid
the
too.
what's that?
That kid too, and he gets fucking petrified, and his hands are still like up in like the photo position.
Yeah, so spooky, dude.
Yeah, dude, every way that they all got petrified, like it was like Jesus Christ. I didn't realize that the cat got petrified too. I thought because like when you first see the cat and it's like strung up, and then it's like written in blood next to it. I'm like,
Right, and
dude,
you're like,
someone
where
just
did they
fucking
get the blood from? It's
yeah. I was
got
like,
to
did
be
someone
from
just
the cat.
murk that cat? And then they're like, no, like the cat got petrified. It's like where'd they get the fucking blood from?
And the groundskeeper in that scene is great too. And he's like, he should be punished. He's
Like
like so
immediately
mad.
goes to Harry Potter, like
So great.
speaking parcel tongue all over the place. You fuck.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I have before IMDb deep dive. All right, so we got a lot of these movies, and I know you said he's only in like 4 or 5 scenes. I think we did Chris Columbus last time, so this time I want to do. This is like in a lot of ways the movie where he first steps into the limelight. I'm
That's
gonna do
Brana.
the actor who played Lucian Malfoy, Jason Isaacs.
Oh, all right. Good pick. Nice pick.
He has so many credits, it's absurd. As an actor, he has 160 credits.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we're obviously not going to go through all those. That's a lot.
We're gonna do every single one.
Yeah, this episode's going to be 5 hours long. Um, so he does a lot of TV work going all the way back to like the late 80s and early 90s. I think for this one, I'm going to do more of just the this or that on some of the movies that stand out to me, though. So let me see. There's one. Okay. Do you take Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets or 1996's Dragonheart?
Is that the one with Dennis Quaid?
Pretty sure, yeah. It's
Yeah,
the one
and
with
Sean
Dennis
Connery
Quaid
is the
where like
voice of the dragon.
he like doesn't like a dragon like donate his heart. Well, maybe not donate's the right word, but the guy dies and he has a dragon heart inside of his body. Isn't that like what the movie's about?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Yeah, it's the one with Dennis Quaid. Oh my God, dude, I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Me neither.
That's
It used
hilarious.
to be a
Obviously,
staple when I was a kid.
yeah, mine, yeah, obviously Harry Potter, but but I need to rewatch that movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Chamber of Secrets as well, but that's the good one to highlight. Also, I don't know how big of a part Jason Isaacs plays in any of these. The rules this week are as long as it's a movie we've heard of and he's credited in it, we're rolling with it.
I mean, he's credited as
Um,
Lord Felton, so I'm assuming he's probably one of the villains.
yeah, I mean, I guess so. Okay.
He's
Will
in a
you
movie we've
take?
done.
Will you take? Yeah. I'm gonna do that one next. Will you take Chamber of Secrets or Armageddon? It's a movie
Oh,
that's been on the podcast before. This might be great context for what score I think you're gonna give it.
what score you think I'm gonna give this one? Oh
Harry Potter.
man, Harry Potter or Armageddon. Armageddon.
I will take Harry Potter.
Ooh, interesting.
All right. Chamber of Secrets or 1998's Soldier.
Fuck off. Harry
Jean-Claude
Potter.
Van Damme movie, I think.
Harry Potter. No, not John. That's Kurt Russell.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, yeah, no, Harry Potter, absolutely.
Okay. I'll take Harry Potter as well. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or The Patriot?
Oh, dude, that's a movie near and dear to my heart right there. I'm going to take Harry Potter because it's like obviously the better movie, but I fucking love The Patriot. Like
I
unironically too. Like I know that movie gets shit on a lot, but like I
Does
genuinely
it?
enjoy that movie. Yeah,
I'm taking
that movie gets
I'm taking The
reviled by
Patriot.
people. You taking The Patriot?
I'm taking The Patriot, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think that movie is really good.
No, I think we could find plenty of people on the internet that would disagree with us, but I
I
do
bet,
agree that
yeah.
Patriot is very good.
That seems to happen a lot where we don't agree
Yeah.
with people on the internet very much.
Very true.
Um, would you take Chamber of Secrets or Black Hawk Down?
Dude,
Jason
of
Isaacs
course,
credited as Steel in Black Hawk
everybody,
Down.
everybody's in Black
Steel
Hawk
with an E.
Down. Jesus. I would take. Fuck, that's another good one. That movie's also really good. Um, no, I would still take Chamber of Secrets.
Dang. Okay. I've never seen Black Hawk Down, so I can't really chime in on that.
Never seen Black Hawk Down? You gotta watch that.
No, like bits and pieces of it, but never really like watched the
Like the
whole
whole
thing.
thing through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I hear people say it's really good.
It is really good.
Would you take this is another movie I haven't seen, but it's definitely worth saying.
Okay.
Would you take Chamber of Secrets or Wind Talkers?
Oh my
2002's Wind
God.
Talkers.
Yeah, absolutely Chamber of Secrets.
I've never seen it.
Dude, that's a movie right there. John Woo war movie. Come on, bro. You gotta watch that.
Absolutely, yeah, I gotta check it out. All right, this is another one that we've talked about a few times on this show, I believe.
Boy.
Would you take Chamber of Secrets or 2002's comedy classic, The Tuxedo?
Fuck off.
What?
He was at the tuxedo. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Dude, isn't Jason Isaacs IMDb wild?
It's
This is why I
insane.
wanted to pick it.
And
'Cause
this is
there's,
all
like, such a
within, which
range on
means,
here.
like you're saying 2002, which means this, Wind Talkers, and Chamber of Secrets all came out in the same year. Like, it's fucking insane for this guy.
Oh, by the way, I missed one that we should go back to, but yeah.
Oh, God. Obviously,
Um,
I'm taking Chamber of Secrets over the tuxedo.
Okay, because there's another one out also in the same year. I don't know if you just said it. 2002, would you take Chamber of Secrets or Resident Evil?
He was in that too this year? Dude.
Yeah.
Dude. What a year for
He's
Jason.
credited as Dr. William Birkin, and then also he's an uncredited narrator.
Oh my God, dude. I do enjoy Resident Evil, but obviously Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah. Okay, so moving
Wow,
on
dude,
to
what a 2002.
crazy, right? And I mean, he's got so many more credits, dude. He's like maybe one of the best that guys, because it wasn't until like he was in a show that we'll talk about in a little bit that I knew what his name was, but I had seen him in so many things, you know.
Okay.
All right, so do you take Chamber of Secrets or 2002's Peter Pan?
Nope. Chamber of Secrets.
Where it looks like he played Captain Hook in Peter Pan.
Oh my God.
All right. He's uncredited in this, but it's on his IMDb. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or 2005's Elektra?
Oh no.
These are
Cha-
more like to just get out how amazing his
Chamber of Secrets. Yeah, what a career.
right?
Absolutely Chamber of
Um,
Secrets.
okay. I will also take Chamber of Secrets.
I think it's safe to say
Um,
we can also like not do the other Harry Potter movies that he's obviously
yeah,
in.
yeah, no, we're not gonna do those now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we want to talk more about those when they come out. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of TV stuff on here. Have you ever seen the movie Green Zone? I think it's like a Matt Damon movie, question mark.
So, yeah, that had come up before. Yeah, it was that Matt Damon movie. No, I am not a fan of that movie. Chamber of Secrets.
Okay.
That's right, because it was written
Nice.
by the Brian Helgeland, who did A Knight's Tale.
Yep. Oh, right. That's why it came up. Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Okay. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or Cars 2?
Come on, Chamber of
Oscar
Secrets.
Isaac is credited as Sedaley, Leland Turbo. He's got the voice of
Oh,
those, whatever that is.
oh boy.
All right. A lot of these aren't serious, but they have to be mentioned. There's just no way around it. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or the 2011 Taylor Lautner vehicle Abduction?
Oh, dude, I forgot about that fucking movie.
When he's like in the Pirates jersey doing like all the Jason Bourne moves.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Or
Yeah,
maybe
one
he's
of
got like a Pirates hat, like a Pittsburgh
maybe one of
Pirates
the
hat. I
in
forget.
one of the many Jason Bourne knockoffs of the 2010s.
Yeah, but this one
Fucking
had Taylor
abduction.
Lautner.
No, Chamber of Secrets.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't pass up talking about Abduction. It's just such a wild movie
I mean,
for Oscar
how
Isaac's.
many opportunities do you think we're realistically gonna get to even mention that movie on here?
Right, ever. All right. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or Fury?
That's the Brad Pitt one, right? About the
The tank
tanks.
movie, I think. Yeah, 2014 Fury.
Yeah, movie's really fucking good. I would take Fury.
All right. I don't think I've seen Fury.
Oh, really good, really good.
I've never watched The Death of Stalin, but I've heard people talk about it, and Oscar Isaac's in that. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh, I've never seen that, but I also have heard people like rave about that movie, and it's always been on my list, but I've just never gotten around to it.
All right, just keeping in line with how insane his IMDb is. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or 2018's Hotel Mumbai?
Oh, dude, that's another movie that fell through the cracks. I remember when that came out. It's like Dev Patel, right? I think is
I think so, yeah.
yeah. Oh my God, what a movie. Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah,
Just
I'll
what
take
but what just
Chamber.
what a career.
Yeah, it's insane the different movies this guy's been in. I think that's it. I might have missed some movies, but those are the ones that really stand out to me. Just talking about TV for a little while. He has a few episodes here of The West Wing,
Okay.
which was a pretty big show in its own right. Oh, I missed a pretty big movie actually.
Oh, uh-oh. What movie?
So I'm interested to see if you know what he does in this movie.
Okay.
2007's Grindhouse.
Oh, he was in Grindhouse?
He
So he
was.
had to have been in the or no, I don't think he was in either movie. Was he in one of the fake trailers?
You're honing in on
All
one.
right, all
Yeah.
right. So
Do you
he's in
know
one of
which
the
one?
okay. Well, all right. So it wasn't Machete. Um, it wasn't fucking Thanksgiving.
Are you sure it wasn't Thanksgiving or Machete? How sure are you?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I'm naming the ones that I'm positive it wasn't him at first.
Okay.
Don't think he was in the Werewolf of the SS Women. What were the other ones? I think there was like two other ones, right? Edgar Wright did one. Which one did he do? Um,
It's
oh,
probably
the one
not
was like,
coming
if
out
you're
right.
thinking of going into that house, don't. Is it
Don't.
don't?
Yeah. He's in Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's credited as like bearded man in the Don't
Oh my God.
segment.
If you're thinking
That
of
was
opening that door, don't.
that was a pretty big one to miss. But yeah, so TV, I don't know, I don't recognize a lot of this stuff from like the 80s and 90s. But in 2000, he's on a 3 episode run of The West Wing in 2004, which is like that's
Nice.
like one of the biggest shows on
Yeah.
TV at
Top.
that
That's top
time.
notch right there.
He has 8 episode credits for Commander Zhao in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Nice.
Um, TV. Hold on, let's keep looking. Oh,
Like
you know what
Avatar
else
The
is
Last
interesting?
Airbender just scored him. Like that's hilarious.
Yeah. You know what else is really interesting? He does a lot of voice work for games.
Really?
So he's like credited for like Napoleon Total War. Um, he's he's also on an episode of Legend of Korra playing the same character. He's a voice in like a couple of the Castlevania games. Like,
Like what, dude? That's so funny.
yeah, and then he's on Star Trek Discovery, which is I think like one of the newer like TV shows that they've done on Paramount.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this is the TV show that really made me pick him, and I want to see if you ever watched this show. Do you know the show The OA?
No, never heard of it.
It's like a Netflix original, and it's a sci-fi show, and it's one of the craziest shows I've ever watched. Like you need
Really?
to go check it out. Um, I'll give you like a little bit of a teaser for the first season.
Okay.
It's about this girl who escapes from captivity. She was like kidnapped and kept in a cage for like a long time. Like she was kidnapped as like a teenager, and she gets out as like in her like 20s or early 30s, and she goes back home, and it's like all about like her like doing stuff at home, and like you get like flashbacks about her captivity and like stuff that happened to her. It's one of the weirdest shows I've ever seen, dude.
Interesting. All right, maybe I'll have to give that one a shot then.
And yeah, Oscar Isaac's on it, plays the doctor who kidnapped her.
Who kidnapped? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'll give that one a go. Is it added
yeah.
added to the copious list of
Yeah,
television
it's in the
shows?
list of things to watch. If it helps, it got canceled after its second season, so I think it's
Beautiful.
only like 15 or 16 episodes.
Wonderful. That's manageable. It just got moved up the
Um,
list.
yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else here, but I think that basically covers it. Oh, he has some credits on Robot Chicken.
Of course. Of
Oh,
course.
okay. Do you take Chamber of Secrets or Monster Family 2?
What? Never even heard of that.
I never heard of that either.
Like
Yo,
what?
he's got he's got 2 episodes of American Dad.
Oh, there you go. You know what I'm seeing
Um,
though? No stints on any procedurals.
no, you're right. No procedural work for him. He never
Wow.
got to never got around to NCIS.
Wow. Can you even call yourself an actor at that point?
There's no Criminal Minds, which is a shame because I feel like Oscar Isaac would play like a great serial
Oscar
killer in
Isaac?
Criminal Minds.
You mean Jason Isaac?
Oh yeah, Jason Isaac. Why did I call him Oscar Isaac?
Uh,
That's not his name at all.
well, that
Is that the
actor wouldn't.
first
That,
time I called him that?
yeah, it's the first time you've done that.
Okay. I
That
don't know
actor
why I called him
won't be
Oscar
around
Isaac.
for a few more years.
Oh, why? What happened with him?
No, I'm saying like where we are right now, he's not an actor yet.
Oh yeah, right. I
Yeah.
was like, what do you mean? Where'd he go?
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. See you guys later. But all right, Jim, let's move on then and dive into our lovely star ratings.
I'm Roger Ebert. In a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
We'll see about that, Raj. All right, Jim, I'm patiently waiting. We're gonna see. We'll listen. Obviously, I know it's not hitting the coveted 5-star. You've made a pretty good case for that already, but I'm curious to see if it'll hit that illustrious 4. So let's hear it. Final rating, final thoughts for Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I said earlier I'm kind of grading this on a curve because I am grading it against the movies that sit on either side of it in the series, which are my 2 favorite in the series.
Mm.
Um, I don't think it quite has the drive or like the central Harry Potter focus stuff we were talking about to get to 5 stars. But I also think we raved about this for like 20-25 minutes for a reason, and that there's so much to love about this movie, and that really it is like a very cool and interesting adventure, and in a lot of ways more interesting than the first one. So and long story short, I'm gonna give this 4 stars out of 5.
4 stars out of 5. All right, that's where I was wondering. That's where I thought you were going to come in. I'm actually going to match you, Jim. I'm also going to give this movie 4 stars. I agree with everything you were saying about how this movie does feel unfocused at times and making sure that its journey feels solely centered on Harry Potter. But like you said, there's so much still to really enjoy about this entry. And a lot of the mystery and the dark overtones really help set the stage for like a lot of the dark stuff that's to come. And it's still just a really fun journey, and I appreciated this movie a lot more this go around than I did before. The themes were a lot more thematically rich than I remembered them being. So I got a lot more out of this movie this time. So I'm matching your 4. So double 4 is going to take us to an 8, which is good enough to crack into the top 10. It's going to join 2 other movies now. So Jim, would you take Chamber of Secrets or Signs?
Oh man, that's an interesting one. Um, I would take Signs.
Man, it's nice is that we can finally agree again.
Yeah, I'll take Signs over Chamber
Been
of
a
Secrets.
while, my old friend. Yes, I would also take Signs over Chamber of Secrets. So all right, so then Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is going to slot into the number 8 spot behind Signs and just ahead of the Lost World's 7.5. And I think that's a good spot right there. Right now,
Okay.
both Harry Potter movies managed to crack the top 10, so they're obviously doing something right.
Yeah, out
Yeah,
of the however many we've done.
30 something now, 33, I think.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with 33. Yeah, so slots in at the number 8 spot. Definitely earned. Now I think I kind of spoiled it already at the beginning of the episode. I don't know if anybody was listening or remembered of what next week's episode is. Do you remember what I said? Did you hear
Yeah,
me
you
spoil
said
it?
8 Crazy Nights earlier in
I
the
did.
episode.
I did. I spoiled it. 8 Crazy Nights. That's right. Next week we'll be diving into Adam Sandler's only dip into the animated front for him writing, at least. I know he did the Hotel Transylvania movies, but I don't think he wrote those. So
Is
we're
this
getting
his? Is this the only like dip into being a musical Adam Sandler's ever done?
think so. Yeah. Yeah.
There's like songs in The Wedding Singer, but it's not quite
Yeah, but that's not
as
really like yeah,
full
he's
depth
more
as
like
this one.
just a musician in that movie that like sings at times than it being like a full-blown musical. Whereas this is like a full-blown musical.
Yeah, if I remember, there's like lots of like show tuney kind of songs in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something, all right. This was a movie that when it was coming up on the list, I like, as we started going through these and we were coming across comedy movies where they did not age compared to how we enjoyed them as a kid. I am like 1,000% sure that this one is going to be at the top of that list of movies that does not age well. Like I just looked at the cover of that movie and was like, that's a movie that 11-year-old me would find fucking hilarious. And I guarantee 34-year-old me is going to fucking hate it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with you. We do talk about how they've aged all the time because it's probably one of the most interesting things about them. And this movie, I would bet Adam Sandler in general doesn't age so great, but this movie especially.
This one especially is where that his humor really started to get long in the tooth. So make sure you join us here next week when we dive into the insanity of 8 Crazy Nights. Jim, do you have any recommendations to leave the people with this week? What are you bouncing on right now?
I can't remember if we've talked about it on this show or not, but I've been watching recently Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh no, we have not talked about
And
that. You giving a
the
rewatch on the old Malcolm in the Middle?
yeah, the first season of Malcolm in the Middle is
Gold.
absolutely insane, dude. It's so funny.
It's that show is so funny. Freaking Bryan Cranston on that show. He's another one that can effortlessly go between being a silly comedy dad and an absolutely menacing human being.
Yeah, and I mean like even like it's just funny because yeah, he does go on to play in Breaking Bad, he plays Walter White. But
Yeah.
even Walter White has some of those like Hal mannerisms, like when he's like running around, like I think it's when he blows up Hector or Gus Fring. When he blows up Gus Fring and he's like
Yeah.
running around the parking garage, he looks like Hal
He-
from Malcolm in the
He's yeah,
Middle. Like he
he
runs,
can't like shake all the mannerisms of him.
Yeah. But no, yeah, Hal is like one of my favorite TV dads of all time. He's so stupid. Reese is so stupid. All the kids are so stupid.
No, that
Dewey, I think the one that really solidified it for me. I just watched an episode where a random kid just showed up and was eating breakfast with Dewey, and nobody knew who he was, but his name was Egg. And Egg is just in the episode the whole time. And like, he never has like a parent around. Nobody knows where he came from. They end up like bringing him to the hospital at the end when like, cause somebody ends up needing to go to the hospital, and they're like, Egg, come on, you gotta come. Like, it's like, and then you never see him again in another episode. He's just gone after that episode's over.
Dude, like late 90s, early 2000s sitcoms were just on another level.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched it in a while, go back and watch Malcolm in the Middle, because I
Well,
think
I
you
have
would
to.
get a real kick out of
It
it
has been
again.
a while since I did my last rewatch. That show is absolutely fantastic. That
What
is.
about you? Any recommendations?
I just saw a good movie for people to go see in theaters that I just caught that I want people to see so we could do well. Go check out the new Kevin Costner movie, Horizon. He
Oh,
needs your money,
I can't
people.
wait.
He is a Western king.
Oh, fresh off of Yellowstone.
Fresh off of Yellowstone is his magnum opus, Horizon, a 4-part movie that he is
Really?
releasing. And it
Like it's
is,
gonna come out in 4 parts, or it's like,
yeah, like it's 4 movies that are coming out. Like this one that just
oh,
came out is called Horizon Chapter 1. Chapter 2 comes out in August, and then he's filming Chapter 3 and 4 right now.
oh my gosh, wow.
And it's gonna be something because Chapter 1 was 3 hours.
Oh boy, I can't wait to go see it. Is it still in theaters?
Yeah, it I came out the last week of June, I believe it was.
Nice.
So yes, but if people don't go see it, God knows how long it'll stay in theaters. So
Yeah. Oh no, I'll definitely go check it out.
yeah, I think you'll appreciate it because much like you and me, we love we think the Postman's underrated, and we unironically
Way
love
underrated.
Waterworld. So I think we're one of the few that'll have an appreciation for a good Kevin
Yeah, I
Costner
was gonna
epic.
say, you're not naming a lot of movies that are famous for lots of people seeing them. That's for sure.
I know. I know. Poor Kevin. You would think that the bump from Yellowstone would get him some traction and get the people in there, but doesn't seem to
Yeah,
be the
I don't
case.
know. Yellowstone is like quite the soap opera. I don't
Never
know.
actually watched it.
Oh, dude, it's
No
not
surprise.
actually like good. It's like it's the first couple of seasons are interesting, and then it kind of is always the whole time, but then really it turns into like a complete parody of itself at some point. Like
That's usually how
it's
shows
just
fail.
General Hospital for like guys with cowboy hats. That's all it is.
Nice. I mean, anything, Jim, that just made it sound way more interesting to me. So,
Yeah. I mean, you should check it out. I'd be interested to see what you think of
I mean,
it.
I've always
It's
wanted
not
to.
like
Yeah, I've always
it's
wanted
not
to
the
because
kind
I
of show
love.
that it screams like the guy who's the lead in it is going to be like a big box office success. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. I mean, I do love Kevin Costner, so obviously I do want to check it out eventually. And I guess now that he's not returning for the show is the perfect time to just watch the seasons that have him in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my one. Go people. If you like westerns, you like Kevin Costner, just go support good Kevin, man. He needs our love right now. He needs our love and support. And then make sure you tune back here next week when we dive into the what is obviously soon to be the atrocity that is Eight Crazy Nights. And as always, until next time, we'll see you at the movies.